By the next morning, Daniel's charity gala disaster had already spread through half his professional circle. Wealthy people love scandals almost as much as they love pretending to be respectable. Martha called me before sunrise after hearing rumors from someone whose cousin worked at the hotel. "You actually exposed him in front of everybody?" she asked, sounding half shocked and half impressed. I poured coffee slowly before answering. I told the truth. Martha laughed dryly. "Same thing. Usually, the truth was I hadn't planned any of it beforehand. I didn't attend that gala seeking revenge. But standing on that stage while Daniel performed gratitude for strangers after showing cruelty behind closed doors, it pushed something in me past its limit. Once dignity breaks enough times, eventually a man stops protecting the people hurting him. Around 10 that morning, Daniel called repeatedly. I ignored the first 3 attempts. On the 4th, I finally answered. "What?" His breathing sounded uneven immediately. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" No greeting. No concern. Straight to consequences. "Good morning to you, too." "This isn't funny, Dad." Neither was being called a burden. He exhaled sharply. "Gregory canceled our merger discussion this morning." "That sounds unfortunate." "Unfortunate." His voice rose. "Do you understand how much money was involved?" There was again. "Money first. Always money first now." "Daniel," I said calmly, "if your business relationships collapse because people learned how you treat your father, maybe the problem isn't me." Silence. Then quieter, more dangerous. "You embarrass me intentionally." "No. Y correcta." I stopped protecting you. That sentence hit him hard enough that he didn't speak for several seconds. Finally he muttered, "Vanessa warned me this would happen." I almost laughed. "Interesting. Because your wife never seemed worried about my feelings. Only your image. Don't talk about her like that." "Why not?" "She talks about me that way constantly." Another silence. Then unexpectedly, Daniel's voice cracked slightly. "You could have handled this privately." For the first time since Chicago, I heard something real in his tone. Not anger. Hurt pride. Real hurt. But even then, he still didn't understand the deeper issue. "I tried privately," I answered quietly. "At your dinner table. In your apartment hallway. Every time you looked ashamed of me." He said nothing. "You know what hurts most?" I continued. "Not the insult itself. The fact you became the kind of man your mother would barely recognize. That landed like a physical blow." Daniel whispered, "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Bring Mom into this." "Why?" "Because she would have been disappointed too." He hung up immediately after that. I stared at the silent phone for a long moment before setting it aside. The conversation left me emptier than satisfied. Revenge stories always sound cleaner in people's imaginations. In reality, hurting your own child, even when deserved, still leaves scars inside you. Later that afternoon, I drove into town for groceries. The cashier at Miller's Market recognized me instantly. "Harold," she said carefully, "you doing all right? Small towns hear everything." I nodded once. "I'm Fina." She hesitated before lowering her voice. "My sister watched a video online from that hotel event." I frowned immediately. "Video? Someone posted it last night. People are sharing it everywhere." My stomach tightened. Of course someone recorded it. In today's world, private humiliation becomes public entertainment within hours. Back home, I borrowed Martha's laptop because I barely understood modern technology myself. She searched for the clip online while muttering insults about social media under her breath. When the video finally appeared, my chest sank. The ballroom lights. Daniel's speech. My response. Millions of strangers now dissecting the worst moment between father and son like entertainment. Comments flooded beneath the video. Some supported me. Others mocked Daniel. A few accused me of manipulating him publicly. But one thing became clear quickly. People recognized authenticity immediately. Daniel's polished performance looked fake beside genuine pain. Martha read some comments aloud before snorting. "Listen to this one. A man who forgets his father will eventually lose himself." I stared silently at the screen. Then another comment caught my attention. "You can hear decades of sacrifice in that old man's voice." Suddenly, I didn't want to watch anymore. I closed the laptop. Enough. Martha studied me carefully. "Regret it?" I thought honestly before answering. I regret that we reached this point. That evening, something unexpected happened. A black luxury SUV pulled into my driveway just before sunset. Daniel stepped out wearing sunglasses despite the cloudy weather. I tried to him. He looked exhausted, older somehow. I remained seated on the porch while he walked toward me slowly. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, he removed the sunglasses and looked directly at me. "Can we talk?" I nodded toward the empty chair beside him. He sat awkwardly, glancing across the fields like someone visiting a foreign country. "It's quiet here," he muttered. That's usually what happens when people aren't screaming for attention. He ignored the jab. The videos everywhere. "I know. My company placed me on temporary leave." I looked at him calmly. "Because of one argument with your father?" Daniel rubbed his face tiredly. "It's not just that. Investors are questioning judgment, leadership image, personal ethics." I almost pitted him for a second. "Almost. Funny," I said quietly. "You spent years building a reputation. Took one truthful moment to shake it." He stared ahead silently. Then after a long pause, he finally asked the question that mattered. "Do you really think I'm a bad person?" The problem was, I couldn't answer immediately. Because evil people usually enjoy cruelty. Daniel didn't. He justified it, rationalized it, allowed ambition to slowly erode empathy until selfishness felt normal. "I think," I answered carefully, "you became too comfortable treating love like an inconvenience." He lowered his head. For the first time since all this began, he didn't argue. Wind moved softly through the fields around us. Somewhere near the barn, chickens rustled faintly. Daniel suddenly looked very small, sitting there. Not physically, spiritually, like a man realizing success built on the wrong foundation still leaves you empty. "Vanessa's furious," he admitted quietly. "She says you ruined our lives." I nodded slowly. "And what do you think?" He stayed silent for a long time. Finally, "I don't know anymore." That was the most honest thing he'd said in years. We sat quietly after that until Daniel suddenly asked, "Did you really skip medication to pay my tuition?" I looked at him carefully. "Why does that surprise you?" His voice became strained. "Because you never told me. Parents aren't supposed to hand children invoices." He closed his eyes briefly. "Jesus, your mother knew," I added softly. "She begged me not to sacrifice so much. But I wanted you to have opportunities we never had." Daniel looked out toward the fields again. "I spent years trying not to become this place. And now," he swallowed hard, "now I'm not sure what I became instead." For the first time in a very long while, I saw the old Daniel underneath the corporate polish. The confused young man who once cried after hurting a fish. Not gone completely, just buried. But buried things can still die if left underground too long. "Dad," he said quietly, "I am sorry." The words hung heavily between us. Real apologies sound different from rehearsed ones. Less polished, more painful. I believed he meant it. But sincerity doesn't erase damage overnight. "I appreciate hearing that," I answered honestly. "But apology and repair aren't the same thing." He nodded slowly. "I know." Darkness settled gradually across the farm while we talked. For the first time in years, conversation between us felt real instead of strategic. He admitted feeling constant pressure in Chicago. Constant comparison. Fear of losing status. Fear of appearing weak. Somewhere along the line, he began viewing anything simple or rural as failure itself, including me. "Vanessa grew up believing image is survival," he explained quietly. "Everything is presentation to her. And you adopted that thinking?" He nodded once. I didn't notice it happening. That's usually how character changes occur. Eventually, Daniel stood from the porch chair. "I should go." I nodded. Neither of us knew what came next yet. At the truck door, he hesitated before turning back toward me. "Ethan asks about you constantly." A small ache moved through my chest immediately. "How is he?" Confused. Daniel looked ashamed again. He heard more arguments than he should have. I stared toward the darkening fields for a moment before answering. "Bring him next weekend." Daniel blinked in surprise. "You mean that?" He deserves to know where he comes from. Something softened visibly inside him then. Not fully healed, but softened. "All right." He climbed into the SUV slowly. Before driving away, he